Welcome back to another dose of positivity. I'm so grateful that you're here. Super excited to announce that this will be our last show. I'm not excited about that, but for 2023, and as our year winds down, I couldn't imagine having a better guest on today than Robin Richardson, who is bringing her brilliance and her talent and her experience to all of us about how to build community and build your health so we can build a better world. And this show is not the end of something, it's the beginning of building a new, better year moving as we move forward. And for those of you who don't know me, I am your host. I'm Donna Maltz. I want to welcome you to the show. Many know me as Mama Donna, kind of like the Pachamama Donna, earth lover, and also someone who enjoys mentoring youth because I do, because they are helping to build our future and relying upon all of us elders to be there so they can stand upon our shoulders. So before we get started, I wanted to let you know we're going to be popping a lot of really cool links into the show, and that it is a live broadcast. So I am going to be welcoming all your questions, and Robin is here to answer them as well. We also love to welcome your input, especially this is all about community, building connection. Any expertise or links or contacts you have to help all of us get through these challenging holiday seasons full of love and joy and lots of stress sometimes for many people, highest rate of suicide, and also the highest rate of waste. And we wrote about that in our last week's blog, how this is really the most unsustainable time of the year. And today we are going to be talking about how we can be more sustainable and building healthier mindset, healthier communities. So I want to thank all of you who showed up for the live show, everybody who's streaming in on the Facebook groups and LinkedIn. We'll be popping the links in there as well. And usually I read from one of my my books, something about community. It was really hard to find just one thing, because really living like the future matters, the evolution of the soul to soul entrepreneur, pretty much the whole book is about biodiversity, diversity, interconnection, and building community. So I couldn't pick one thing. And besides, Robin and I have so much to talk about. She has so much to offer. But I wanted to remind you, this is the journal that I wrote a couple years ago, and that it does make an incredible holiday gift for less than $20. We have lots of things on our website. Chell will pop it in there in the EcoSpired shop, and also we're offering a 20% off on all reservations, that if you book today and you want to come next year, you would get 20% off. So that's my little, like, you know me, I never usually do marketing or plugging, but this holiday season, we're definitely, as you know, I donate all my profits to environmental and humanitarian causes. And Tel, who has been working with us for years to help build this tribe, this community of solutionists, has been having some health challenges. And as most of you know, her son was sideswiped by a van and had a brain injury. What a great Christmas present, huh? Anyway, he is in recovery right now, and thank God his life was spared. So we're trying to make as many sales as possible, keep Soul to Soul afloat in that regard, and so appreciate you taking the time to keep our community alive. And this week, if you haven't read our blog, it's just chock full of really lots of love and lots of great ways that we can all build community. But without further ado, Robin, before I read her bio, Robin and I met over community. We met over food security. We met over environmental justice and sustainability issues. We were brought together, I think it's over 30 years now that I know this incredible woman who has been, I don't like to use the word fighting, but marching forward, educating people in this in a global movement to make the world a better place with tangible ways to do this. And man, I just can't say enough good things about her, and those more of those things will come out as we go through the show. I'm reminding you all not to be shy either, because Robin is a sweetheart and is full of wisdom to share. So. But here's a little bio that she provided for us. It doesn't do her justice, but I'm going to read it anyway. Robin Richardson, first of all, is a two-time award-winning author and a global speaker. Robin is a distinguished individual with a master in global supply chain. Big community there. She's also a beacon of knowledge and expertise with the Global Food Collaborative. She has a keen focus on connecting local supply chains, and Robin understands the importance of fostering relationships between the producer and the consumer on a, here's the ticket, community level. This approach not only supports local economy, but also contributes to the overall health and vitality of their community. And now you know why Robin and I are such good friends. And she has interviewed me, and actually you'll pop that link in there too, to introduce people to the Global Food Collaborative and how they can get engaged more in just being a healthy, more dynamic, contributing person to society and Mother Nature. So Robin, welcome to A Dose of Positivity. Thank you so much for carving this time in your day to be with us today.
Thank you, Donna. It's always very generous of you to invite me to your forum. Have a good conversation with you. I enjoy it immensely, you know.
I know. Gosh, Robin, I wish we could clone you 10 times over in every single town. And boy, the world would be a better place. So I just want to elaborate on all of this. Like right now, when you think about it, this is a community. People show up to A Dose of Positivity. We have some real regulars on the show. Thank you all for being here. Whether it's on land or online, the value of community is underestimated, and nature teaches us that. Wow, I just heard something in the distance that was so weird, like saying to me, yes, I'm here, I'm part of your community. But if you are what you surround yourself by, it is a question that many people ask. And like, we're the sum of 5 people that we hang around with, right? You want to be smarter, you hang around 5 people who are smarter than you. You want to be an asshole, you hang around with 5 bigger assholes. So it can go either direction, right? So how does that work out in this conversation that we're about to have, and how can we improve this concept in our everyday lives?
Well, Donna, I really appreciate that you brought that up in a previous conversation. You just sort of enlightened me, reminded me. I've heard those phrases, decades ago, and you do forget them, and they're so practical because you are who you surround yourself with. And we've talked about our personal life and professional life and how that works. And I think people are really struggling right now in so many different ways. And I do want to just take a moment and read a couple of things. And then we're going to go from that to sort of the hacks of what we do and what we can do. But I do want to read something that really impacted me this year. And it's a study done by Cigna Insurance. And I've seen it quoted a couple of times, but I came across it because I was in a dispute with a very young person who decided to tell me that older people were very lonely. And there were a lot of new things that they were doing for lonely old people. And I never take anything really for fact. So I went to research how lonely we are in our older ages. And the Cigna insurance company had done a study in 2017, 2019. Now they've done them in 2021. And guess what? The older seniors are not the loneliest. So I just want to read a few things. It says the loneliness epidemic persists, a post-pandemic look at the state of loneliness among U.S. adults. This is the U.S. version. It says now, according to new confirming data from Morning Consult commissioned by Cigna, more than half of the United States adults, 58%, are considered lonely, fairly consistent with pre-pandemic, which was at 61%. So they're saying here, people from unrepresented racial groups are more likely to be lonely, 75% Hispanic, 68 Black. People with lower incomes are lonelier than those with higher incomes. Nearly 2/3 of the adults, 63%, earn less than $50,000 per year, classified as lonely. Young adults are twice as likely to be lonely than seniors. 79% of adults age 18 to 24 report feeling lonely compared to 41% of seniors age 66 and older. More than twice as many younger adults as older adults experience feeling left out, and men and women are about the same. And this study goes into a lot of other really surprising details that are pretty consistent, but it is a very bad report card. And when I first read this, I was talking to my husband about it because he had just returned from visiting his 98-year-old mother who lives by herself. And I said, was she lonely? And he said, no. And we started to talk about why. And there's a lot of reasons why. But a big part of it was that she does have a social network around her. She's been in her same home for years. But she had, if you think about it, she always criticized us for walking in with our phone or being on our computer because she doesn't do those things. She cooks, she watches her sports games, she listens to the radio, she reads her newspaper, she does puzzles, she cleans her house, so on and so forth. And none of that, all of that kept her busy, engaged. She can pick up the phone and call people and so on and so forth. But I started to think more about what the social media scenario is really doing to us. And certainly there's a lot of studies about that. So I do want to talk about hacks, but I do want to say we're coming from a very serious situation. It's not just that we are feeling the holidays and, tough, but the fact that we're dealing with a epidemic of loneliness. And I think about it every day. And I don't know if everyone else does, but I think about I think about who's out there that's the loneliest and how I could reach out to them, of individuals that I know. And I think one thing, if you don't mind, Donna, I want to just tell a really quick story.
Please.
So years ago, maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we did a party for my parents at their retirement home. And it was a birthday party, anniversary, something like that. And the retirement homes work just like the elementary schools do these days, or schools, which is you can't just invite one or two people. You have to invite everybody, or don't invite anybody. So, there's a couple hundred people at this retirement home. So I said, that's fine. So we brought enough food and everything like that. Well, one thing that I did, which you've done before too, but I've always been an event organizer, is I had hello tags at the front. And so I would welcome somebody that would come in. I didn't know any of them. Ask them their name, write down their name, put that on, say hello, welcome them. And do you know what they told me? That I discovered? You aren't allowed to use their names there.
What?
That changed years ago, that when I put that tag on and I called them by their name, they looked up at me. What had happened is years ago, some of the management got very friendly and would play playing chess and all this stuff with people. And the organization that operated it said no more. You can't do those things, that they are our customers. And so you have a business professional relationship with them, and you don't call them by their first name. You don't reference them like they're a human. These people never left this party. And I called them by the name. And this is something that I have thought a lot about since then, which is how rarely we connect with people and call them by the name. But you just said that right before we came on. You said you had two girlfriends there and you saw them. And seeing people and all the tactile relationships that you have as a result of that, and the physical body language, all of that is, I wonder how often we're not using our names and saying hello and looking in the eye and connecting at that human level. And the reason I bring all of these up is this, is that this sort of started with Donna talking about who she surrounds herself in her community. And I listened to a presentation given by John Kemp because my area is really in farming and food and supply chain, right? And a little bit over on the health side. And John Kemp is very famous for regenerative farming. He's an entrepreneur and has made a name for himself and has a very successful podcast and so on. He talked the other day about what regenerative farming means, but what the word regenerative means. And he explained in his view, it means relationships. So as Donna talks about when I've interviewed her and in her career, she jumps between the microbiome uh, in the human microbiome and the microbes in the soil, and she can bridge back and forth, which is most of the people that I work with can speak both languages very well. But I hadn't ever really thought about the regenerative part being the human relationship, or that regenerative health was the relationship we have with our own health, which Dawn has been explaining, instructing on how to do that better, as well as obviously in the soil and the farm, the relationships with the farmer and the soil. So many of those farmers are saying now that they're not really farmers, they're stewards, right? They're not in charge any longer. They're following what they need to do for the health of their soil and their plants. So I was thinking about humans, what's our relationship with other? And then how do we regenerate that? Is it that we just don't have those relationships, and how do we do the hacks? And I would say the first thing is to look at somebody and say, hi, Donna, how's it going? Hi, Beverly, how are you doing this evening? And listen. I don't think we're doing a lot of that. I think it goes a long way to our human health and our mental health of our own identity, don't you think?
Oh, wholeheartedly. I love, my mind just always, like when I speak with you, just fires a million directions. And I just want to acknowledge so deeply the wisdom and the truth, just as going back to the statistics about loneliness. I there's no reason why any of us needs to be lonely. And there's this social construct of the way even pre-COVID, to swoon us to the material goods. We'll know a name of a brand or an actor or an actress before we know our neighbor's name. And I just find this to be very disturbing that our culture and society has gotten this way. And we're going to pop this link in. We'll pop this link in. There's Dan Ratner who got the blue zones off the ground, who went around first cycling around the globe for National Geographic, just reporting and writing articles for National Geographic. In his travels as a cyclist and journalist, he was coming up against these communities of centurions, of people who lived to be 100 or more, and was able to convince National Geographic to keep funding him to study these centurions. And the number one thing, which is what Robin's talking about, that it is exactly what she's talking about, that they found the number one thing wasn't what they ate or where they lived, because these were people from cities in California to Akanangwa, Japan, couldn't be more different. I can never say that name right. But the number one thread that kept people alive, longevity, but not just alive, healthy and vibrant, like Dave's grandmother, was community. It was knowing people's names. It was addressing people by their names and getting together in celebration of just being alive, not any big festival every day, and communicating and talking. Because I think the biggest, I don't think, I know that the loneliness is a product of of greed. Because before this, or countries that are poor, or even you look at like Tell's family in the Philippines, when her son was hurt, I mean, you couldn't fit all the family in the hospital room. It's a cultural conditioning. It comes back to that I, me, my, like American way, my way or the highway. And that it's just beautiful that acknowledging this, we can change, and it doesn't matter at any age. We can start, we can look at what the shackles of society has done to these people at this nursing home. I mean, I would shut them down. Did I say that? I mean, what did you, how did you contend with that when you heard that? I mean, this was a place where Dave's mom was staying, right?
Oh, my parents were in, as you are aware, I sort of dropped out for about 8 years to take care of parents who needed help, and each of them needed different things. You get two different scenarios, and so they were in three different facilities full time, many others for various different things, but three big facilities that they were in, extremely well, extremely expensive, big big locations. But the problem was they were all the same. You are a number. And if you think about in our life now, how often we're asked about the number, our social security number, our Medicare number, our phone number, something before you get to the name part, right? And the name is sort of secondary because they're coding them by other things, contact. And in these cases, it was, I mean, I really could write a book about the tragedy of that scenario, and not being recognized, and definitely going in there relatively well and coming out sick in every one of them. So these are not, I don't mean to say that, every case, but there was, just like every system, it's a, it's not a great system. The people inside of it, many of them were very, very good, but the
Mhm.
system didn't really operate for the benefit of the patients or the customers. So when I left there, I mean, I was really shocked. I hadn't thought about the fact that they had been just basically treated like a CAFO, like cattle. Um, and they just didn't have that personal connection some of them had with each other. But it just really made me realize how important saying somebody's name is when you walk through. And even in the hospitals and so on, there are many people sitting in rooms that would like you to come in because they don't have people, and say hi, and call them by their name and introduce yourself. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. But when you think about our young people and the situation that they're in and how their lives have developed, um, and the huge loneliness factor with them. And I do point a pretty big finger to the devices, all the devices that have been used with these. They don't have the ability like like Dave's mom, to understand how to live in a different world and how to connect on a human basis. I asked Dave's mom, um, she wants to go with the rest of the family. She goes, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. And I go, what did they say when you knock on the door and say, I want in? And she says, they say you can't come in yet. And I was laughing because the sad part of it is they're probably handling so many people coming in who, you know, are lonely and sad, and it goes to mental health. So as you and I are in the area of talking oftentimes about food and how amazing that can change your mental state, there's another aspect of it, which is, as you always bring up, our energy that we give to people. But my experience during this time was that I also saw many people who were in that mid ages of 40 to 60 becoming very comfortable with othering and labeling. So, you're a Hawaiian, you wear glasses, whatever. And the more I saw that, I it's not my style, and I had a community that was uh, very close to, and it was too much othering and not and dividing, and I don't want to be around that. I'm a person who's curious. I love to read. I love to meet new people. I love to inquire about people's lives, and I love to connect people. So people who can make even more things, 1 + 1 = 3 scenarios. And I'm best used for that. But to talk about people when the world has these issues of loneliness, how does that help the loneliness scenario, no matter what age?
Yeah.
When you're a solver, like you said, you're a solutionist, and you have to be um, more grand and open to, I think it's just human compassion. And I don't know if it's been the devices or what has taken us away from that. But I have a great opportunity to surround myself with people like you and others um, who are doing a million things. I mean, you're a perfect example of somebody who's got 6 or 7 different things going, 8 or 10 different plans that
Mhm.
you're going to make. So,
One thing, Robin, I'm just loving this conversation, and you are a connector, and I'm so grateful that you brought up that word too, because connection and communication that's relationships. That's what regeneration is, right? And we have that. But for the listeners who are listening to this, who don't like people for good reason, there's not a whole lot of really great people because they're all like dehumanized, not knowing their own names half the time. Uh, but then you find your tribe and you thrive, and that's where I feel like I have chosen to do that. But one of the things that I love to touch upon, because there's a big difference in being lonely and being alone. So
mhm.
you mentioned something earlier, about, connecting to the soil and the microorganisms and finding, crafts or the things that an older person likes to do. They're doing their dishes, they're fixing their house, they're organizing things, they're calling their great grandkids or whatever that connection is. Also, there's a lot of people like you and I who have our four-legged friends, our dogs, and or people who relate to horses better than humans. So I don't think either you or I or in any way saying to anybody out there making a judgment, you need to, stop being lonely and go out and find some cool people to hang out with. Maybe there are no cool people, but there are ways to you can still live alone, but you don't have to be alone if you have your animals, you have your hobbies, your crafts, you know your name. There's other ways to And this whole conversation really is about living in community or building community. And one of the interviews, until you'll pop this in, is the one I did with Jay on One Community. And there's also another link we're going to put in. There's this organization of international communities, these global communities out there. And right near where my son lives, there's one called Earth Haven. And there are these pockets within the communities where the artists are and people who have similar interests. It's not like you have to hang out with people all day. Right, Robin? That's not what we're saying here. But we are saying is that this epidemic of people feeling so lonely that they're on antidepressants, and hence coming back to what I was mentioning earlier and alluding to is like it's our society boxing us in and leading us to the pill fix it all, or being dependent on some kind of like if you're not out drinking or clubbing or whatever, you're a loser. So Robin, let's dive deep into what is someone like I touched upon a little bit, but what are practical things other than what I just mentioned, like just to have a from your point of perspective, you live in Montana in this town, which is the windiest place in America. And sometimes it's just too hard even to open up the door to go anywhere to socialize. So what do you suggest for people who are lonely? What can they, what do you
Well,
suggest?
I think one thing I'd like to say is that I think all of us are lonely at times. And sometimes some of us are alone, some of us are not alone. Um, but I think everyone lonely or, maybe not feeling so lonely has a responsibility to reach out to someone. And obviously, if it is in your own community and close, a neighbor, that's the best thing, I think, because you really do visually see them, you have an experience with them, so on and so forth. But it takes time. Something that is probably relatively unique to me, but I think a lot of people are transient right now and moving. A lot of people have moved, is starting over in a new community. To build your tribe is not so easy either. So what are the hacks? The hacks are to say every day you're going to make an effort to do something and connect with someone in some way. In my case, um, it's been very difficult in a new place at my age because I don't have my kids that are in school. I don't have a church that I go to. I didn't have a professional career where I was in the office, so on and so forth. You just didn't have that whole thing. And I've moved so many times in the last 10 years, and starting over. So what I do is I make a concerted effort every day to make a contact or keep an existing contact current. So somebody in my community, and I'll make an effort to either call them, email them, text them, go visit them. It's a very intentional effort to keep going around the loop and around and around and around, because where I live, just like everywhere else, probably for most people, I'm an outsider. And you have to gain trust with them. So within my own community. But one thing that is, I just want to mention as a hack, maybe, you've seen in an observation, you've seen in the last few weeks, the last month or two, I've come in from outdoors, from the gardens and so on and so forth. And I'm trying to reconnect with people within the, membership. So I'm doing an individual, a little different email talking about things that I think are important to people. Do you know what's happened, Donna?
No.
Is people are just hit and respond going, "Hey, this is what I've been doing this summer. What are you doing?" So I got this lovely so I've done a more personal connection with people. And when they write, there's a kid down the street, not very far, who's there, who wrote back, and he wrote back today, and he said, "These are all the things I'm working on. Um, I'm going to grow my farm bigger. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this." Well, he's my CSA, and he likes to just have a one-on-one conversation,
Mhm.
not a not a and I think people want one-on-one conversations. So whether it's through your animals or your dogs, my hack has been, I would say, guerrilla meeting people, instead of guerrilla marketing in
Mhm.
any conceivable the way that I can. And in my case, it's been a lot of the people who have come to work on my home, who live in my community, who are well established, that I write to very frequently and just say, "Hi, how would you like some salmon?" Then they bring some elk, you know, that kind of thing. And it is all, um, it wouldn't happen if I wasn't trying those things. It still doesn't wipe away being lonely or alone, because there are those times, and you have to have satisfaction that you've made every possible effort. And I think some of these people that we're talking about, who the younger people in particular, probably don't have these hacks or tools. So what do you use, Donna? I mean, you've had to start over in Hawaii. What have you done?
First of all, I really appreciate all your hacks. I'm sure everybody who's listening can resonate to them. A lot of what you mentioned are fabulous tools. I think there's one thing I always write about and say, and a lot of you who are on heard me say this before. I've never been bored a day in my life, and when you're not bored, you're not lonely. Boredom is a symptom of loneliness. But know who you are, what you love to do, and have a purposeful why. If you can have those three in alignment, you're never lonely, because I entertain myself. I'm not bored. I chose to live where I live. Not everybody can choose to just move to Hawaii, but we all have choices. We can, for some people it's change the synagogue or the church or wherever you're going. If you're a religious person, if it's not speaking to you, um, if that's an important thing, because religion, a lot of people I have noticed that, I mean, this is a hack for some people, really find, especially when they move to a new place, they join either the Audubon Society, which would be kind of like my church, or a conservation organization, which would be my church, or find the sustainable, um, people who are doing things, because I know who I am. I know what I love to do. And my purpose is to stay in that arena no matter where I move, no matter what I do. And then I'm going to find kindred spirits, because it's not just the person that creates the loneliness, or not having the person that would create the loneliness, but it's that purposeful why, or that connection of feeling dignity, and that connection of feeling of contributing. um, that I think is the loneliest place in the world, where you're feeling like you're not contributing. I don't think there's a single person out there would disagree with that. Dignity and contribution are keys to um, humanity. Those are just,
Somebody that I used to watch on podcasts or read their books used to talk about how living like the future matters. And I think, I don't know if I told you this, but I just recently read in Will Harris's book, Bold Enough to Give a Damn. And he's created this big regenerative farm, and explains why he didn't retire, and explains that he has the option always of getting up and moving to an area where he could have a very nice retirement and live in a nice home and a golf course and so on and so forth. And he has his own voice, and he said, but I do know that that's where dreams go to die. And I I laughed because um, I think that there's a little bit to that, in the sense that what you're talking about is to have a sense of purpose. You're going to have that sense of purpose until your last breath, if you have purpose, right? Um, and that's a difficult thing to, I think, for a lot of people. But I also want to just bring up something else that you have brought up before, and it's, what do you do when you have individuals around you who are toxic? I mean,
Mhm.
you've talked about that. I mean, my experience of having, let's say, a meeting, or if you're in an office, and I've worked in offices a lot, and you can have something just totally not working. One person leaves, you get a new person, and everything works.
Mhm.
And I feel the same thing about community. So, you're probably a little bit more articulate about how do you deal with that, because you don't want your energy sucked out to be overwhelmed.
Yeah, that's so great because I write about energy vampires, and I've had some of them enter my life, try and suck my blood. And the most important thing I think for is is one word that I would like everybody to just use as a mantra, think about it, is choice.
Mhm.
You can choose to be a victim most of the time. You can choose not to be a victim. There are a few people in bad situations, maybe you're in a prison or, you know, but hey, Oprah Winfrey did it. I mean, there's lots of people who grew up in poverty and in very toxic situations and making the choice to change, making that choice to walk out the door and close it and never look back. Because looking back only brings trauma forward. And that sounds real easy when I say it. I know it's easier said than done. I've heard that before. But for some, it's done easier than said, and they just do it and they don't even have to say it. Like for me, toxic, I'm out of there. Every, we know. I mean, we're human beings. We have emotions, we have instincts, we have this ability. People, I look at people like, um, some people are allergic to walnuts. They eat them, they die. Some people are allergic to bees. They get stung. They end up in the emergency room. You know who you are. You don't eat the walnut and you don't associate with the asshole. You just make up your mind. That's a choice. And you could say, well, I have to go to work and I have to see this person every day. Well, you don't have to go to work and you don't have to have that boss. You can quit and you can start your own business or you can go find another place to work because we victimize ourselves. We have choices. And we also have choices like you did. You said yourself in the last 10 years, you've moved several times. Now, we don't want to be vagabonds our whole life, but we also can make really good choices to move to areas because we do. It's always a calculated risk, not a risk, but a calculated risk to exit from one place to another, from one job to another. Sometimes it has to happen real spontaneous, man. That walnut's touching your tongue, you got to spit it out. But other times it's like, okay, the nuts are over there. I see that there's a lot more nuts building up. And you know what? I know what's going to happen if one more nut hits because I've done my research. And that's that when it gets that many nuts, I'm out of here. So you have that exit strategy. Life comes real spontaneous, but also we also plan our lives. We know we have to get up and be at work from 9 to 5 or whatever it is, right? That's so we also know that 9 to 5 is toxic and the people in that ecosystem are toxic. And we also know how to open and close a door. And sometimes we just need a kick in the ass. Like we're having this conversation. Maybe somebody's hearing this and is going, wow, that really resonated with me. I am done. I'm over being a victim. And um, like in Alaska, for instance, like one of the reasons I left there was because the politics were so toxic. And I was tired of fighting all the time. It was an uphill battle. I was getting older. The weather wasn't a factor. Lots of things. Hawaii was a reality for me. Already built community, and it was just a really very, very relatively easy transition. But there were a lot of, you know, political cesspools to work through and toxic um, things to navigate. And it was very exhausting for me. And now that I'm here, I'm just like, wow, I found it's not all perfect. I'm still a howlie. I'm still a minority here. So there's many hacks in that little monologue. And thank you for allowing me to asking me to see what I do. And I'm just encouraging anybody out there who's feeling lonely, like, and to reflect on all the really great hacks you gave, and like what I say or not, they're hacks. Get your ass out of a
One
toxic relationship.
one thing that I've had that I've noticed about myself is that uh, I do a lot better. Well, I am an individual who likes to talk about ideas and not people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if you step back and you watch individuals who talk about other people, to me, and from an energy point of view, it sucks it out.
Mm-hmm.
Where ideas, I'm always energized. It took me a long time to really realize that specifically. But I have to, so that's one of my hacks. But I do have to tell you sort of a final hack that this is how hard I work at creating community here in my new home. And that is, I'm trying to find somebody to watch the dogs, right? And so I can't, I've been all over. I've asked everybody I possibly know. It's been sort of a connector for me to all kinds of different people, all kinds of different responses. There's definitely a shortage of people to watch animals. Anyway, so on Rover, right? And went on Rover and interviewed people, talked to people, asked people different questions, so on and so forth, been doing site visits. I got thrown off Rover the other day. Ask me why.
Well, why?
Because a few of them have been, few of them, when I've said this is what I need, so on and so forth, they go, "Oh, that's great. I'm into that kind of alternative health as well for my pets. And what I do is this." And then I come back and I go, "This, I do this," and so on. And these are people who live near me, right? So these are not people overseas or anything like that. They're, a mile down the road, 10 miles down the road. We got into these really good conversations about alternative healing for animals. And Rover said, get off of this format. This is a booking service for dog sitting and house sitting. And I had to laugh because I thought, well, that's how desperate I am to connect with people who are of a tribe, right?
Yeah.
And they were as well. So I thought, well, so anyway, we've all connected outside of Rover, but that's another hack. You keep having a conversation with somebody, whether you've met them on some reliable source, and keep having those conversations. And now I will be meeting with one of them who has a special salve for Mabel.
Oh, that's so good. So you found somebody to watch Mabel.
Found somebody to watch Mabel and found others who are in homeopathy and holistic healing for animals.
Yeah.
So it expanded my network. So those are some of the hacks that I've been using. I mean, really, it's just every tool I possibly can to create a local network.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's so great. Well, I love that. That's a really empowering. sometimes it's those rebel actions that, or just putting in somebody's name on a name tag into senior center, that will really makes you realize how screwed up things are, where people are talking and connecting over the wrong things, the laws and the policies, and that are dehumanizing. I'm really glad you found somebody to take care of your animals. And the thing that we have done too is, because both Robin and I, we love our dogs as much as we love our husbands. My husband's on here, I think. But we do. They're like our kids, We're not empty nesters. So I have 4 dogs now. I have them, and they're all so different and loving. And I think that sometimes we make our best friends. I mean, really, I have, when people, they love my dogs, I love them immediately, just on a walk. But if we don't reach out and we don't ask, we don't get answers. We don't get connection. And I know some people who are listening to this are shy, insecure, introverted, whatever you want to label yourself as. But you are you. You are Robin. I am Donna, and Tel, and Tanya, and anybody. Your name was given to you by your parents. But there's nothing wrong with calling, like I call all my dogs, darling and lovey and precious and honey. And as long as you're calling people with love and enduring, it doesn't matter if you remember their names. But what the point is that affection behind it, rather than the gadget in between us. It's kind of going full circle with this conversation. And medication is not the answer for loneliness. Connection is the answer for loneliness. And knowing who you are and what you love to do, and having a purposeful why, you'll never be lonely again, because you have yourself. And we all have, we're all here. I mean, God, universe brought us here to create, the creator, whatever it is to you. And when we're not creating, we're lonely. And we're not creating connections because we're lonely, and we're digging that bigger hole, and it gets deeper and deeper till you can't crawl out of it. And one of the things, Robin, you said, and I think it's so important with the statistics, going back to the beginning of the conversation, is the loneliness amongst our young people. And I love that you said, go out and, talk to your neighbor, see how you can help. We don't often think about these young people, that they're the majority committing suicide and having these challenges. So from this conversation, and as we go into this holiday season, there are signs. We go to the airport and there's signs everywhere about sex trafficking or whatever. Like you see this look, this person needs help. Well, we, as all humans on this planet, are meant to connect and to communicate and to level up. So I encourage this conversation to go beyond this hour-long discussion that Robin has brought so much wisdom and hacks to the table, and spend some time identifying just one person, and it will change not only their lives, but your life for the better. So that's my 2 cents. Just one. How enriching it is. And if you get kicked off of it, whether it's Rover or not, or whatever it is, some Facebook group, but you can connect and find Mabel her perfect sitter, because you knew who you were, you knew what you wanted, and your purpose was to find the best, and you went to great lengths to do that. And I really encourage all of us to do that, whatever the situation is. Reach out. Now, for the holidays and forevermore. And Robin, I would love to ask you, and leaving on this conversation, because it's kind of amazing that this was like the fastest hour of I think we've done almost 100 episodes, Tell you'll have to look. But I'm just going to do a couple of real quick announcements, Robin, and then I'd like you to leave us with some really beautiful closing words. Uh, just how to really get through the holiday season, because a lot of people can be at a crowded office party or in a room full of family and feel incredibly lonely. So I would like you to talk to that and how just to help people have a great holiday season. But before we do that, I just want to thank everybody who showed up for the live today, and also for all of you listening on the live stream. And this will be the last show of the year for me. I am leaving on this December 23rd and going to visit our family in North Carolina. And then I'm going to India, and we're going to pop the link in. And I really want you guys to check it out. Talk about community. I'm going to India with some people that I met in North Carolina to do an Ayurvedic clinic to it. They call it an Ayurvedic hospital. My health is totally improving from my heavy metal detox, and I'm going to continue this in India for the month of January. And then when we come back, we already have a lineup of great guests, and for the month of February. And we'll be keeping you posted through blogs and communications. Connection. You're my family. You're my tribe. And I hope you all read the blog this week, because there's some other great hacks in there as well. And if you have, or you would like to be a guest on the show, just go to donnamaltz.com, send us a message, or you could put the calendar link in the chat and on the Facebook feeds. And if you know someone who would like to be a guest, anything to do with solutions for a better world, changemakers, thought leaders, and health professionals that put social and environmental justice at the forefront of their endeavors. And I want to thank you, Robin Richardson, for all your work that you have done tirelessly for the past 40 years to help create not only a better food chain, but better connections and communication from the soil to the soul, from the sea to the soul. You have helped so many people, and in the links you guys below will have a way you can get a hold of Robin, and also Global Food Collaborative, where you'll connect with some of the most extraordinary humans who are busting wide open the unsustainable, unattainable food system that came with the greed of loneliness that we've been talking about here today. And these are people who are communicating with the microbiome of the soil and the microbiome of their beings to make the world a better place at Global Food Collaborative. So I want to thank you for all your tireless work and continuing to do it, and not retiring, and continue inspiring, Robin. So with that, I'd love for you to leave us with some, hacks for the holidays, and what we can do in a room full of ornery people and feel very lonely surrounded by humans, and how we can not find ourselves in those situations.
Well, I was thinking the other day about why we didn't have sort of an Advent calendar exactly like you just said, where every day we reach out to someone. I mean, wouldn't that be an exemplary tool to teach our kids how to do at the time of the year where they are shopping and they're having so many parties and everything's about money and what they're going to get, and events? It's just a solid high. I mean, if you think about it, that is not occurring. I very rarely, if at all, in families, but that you expressed it so beautifully. Just reach out to someone. First of all, I don't think we really know who is the most seriously lonely. Clearly, though, that data is that they're it is very young people that are having trouble. So I think that's great. I think in my closing comment, I would say this. It's something that I practice a lot and remind people about, which is I believe everything's about expectations. You have to manage expectations. So when you're the boss and you're an employee, do you have the same expectations? When you're a husband and a wife, mother and a child, mother and a dog, um, to manage what those expectations are. And I think over the holidays, I've always felt those expectations are far too high. I don't know if it came from the original movies or just society as a whole or what, but I think you really have to manage what those realistic expectations are for yourself and your family and talk about it because in my experience, um, I wouldn't say that I lower them, but I have achievable expectations and they're very, very simple. They're not complicated and they're always around having an experience, not necessarily gifting and running around and getting, you know, parties and numbers of parties or numbers of people, but basically how, can I have one good experience out of the next month or over those holidays? And what will that be? It could be as simple as sitting and looking at lights on a tree.
Mhm.
It could be simple as smelling, some fresh produce or making a nice meal and just having, enjoying it with someone. It does not have to be what society has placed on us. So I would say manage expectations and appreciate yourself for everything that you do offer. So that's what I would say.
Ah, I love that, and I love you, and I am super, super grateful for everything you do. And I am going to tell everybody, um, just share my love, and I'm reaching out to you and to anybody who wishes to receive so much love and so much gratitude to you, Robin. And I'm going to reach out to you this week and have a conversation before I go on my trip. And I want to wish everybody a super happy, happy holiday season. And remember to go out there and reach out and just share your goodness with somebody, just one person every day for the rest of your life. What a purpose that would be. That would be a great purposeful why. And I want to again thank you so much, Robin, for sharing with us today, for making my day absolutely amazing. And I love you all dearly. And I will definitely be blogging and trying to communicate while I am gone. And I hope to that 2024 just brings us out of loneliness, if anybody's there, into love, into light. And so I'm wishing you all big, big love and aloha and gratitude for being here. And thank you so much, Robin. Big love.
Thank you, Donna. Good night.
Good
Merry
night.
Christmas. Bye now.